but also Real Madrid. He was incredible. But of course, it wasn't his prime anymore because he was a bigger. He was fat. It's not my favorite team, as everybody knows. I believe is the enemy football team against Juventus. Uh, but man, I fell in love. Welcome back to Just Football, Not Soccer. Today we're gonna talk about players that we grown up admiring. My favorite player was Ronaldo Phenomenon, Luis Nazario da Lima, the Brazilian one. And please don't forget to like and subscribe on our podcast. But also Real Madrid, he was incredible. But of course, it wasn't his prime anymore because he was a bigger. He was fat. Here, Mikey. Hi,
What's
Mikey.
up, everyone? What's going on? I'm
So-
excited to hear this. I also grew up watching Ronaldo, admiring him. I think by virtue of the era in which you grew up in, a bit earlier than me, you remember him better. So yeah, I think let's jump into it.
Yeah, I remember him very well because I guess he was the first player not playing in my favorite team in Juventus that I really fell in love. I believe, on my opinion, that he's one of the best players ever in the history
Of the game.
And for me, the best one, better than Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. He just had too many injuries comparing to Cristiano and Messi, so he couldn't achieve all the goals and results that the other two had. So going back to Ronaldo, I remember his career started in Brazil. He came from a very poor family, poor neighborhood. He started his career in Cruzeiro, and then he moved to Europe, knowing the best teams as Barcelona, Real Madrid, or Manchester United, Juventus. But he moved to PSV Eindhoven in Netherlands. And he was very, very young. He was 18 years old. I remember I was already following Ronaldo. Everybody was talking about this very talented young player. So I started to follow PSV Eindhoven, watching his goals on YouTube, and was really incredible back in the day. Until he moved to Barcelona, there was already very good team, very strong team.
Yeah.
And
Who was in the Barcelona team at that time?
Barcelona at that time, honestly, I don't.
Was Luis Figo there at the time before you went on to Real Madrid?
I guess Luis Figo
Rivaldo.
Rivaldo probably. Yeah,
Rivaldo
Rivaldo
was
was
there.
there. They were also a teammate in the national team, the Seleção. I don't really remember the players now that he had in that year. Was already a very good team. And he was incredible. He was strong, very speedy. He had the best ball control I ever seen before. Probably only Maradona had that really good ball control. He was smart. His technique was incredible. I never seen any player like him to be able to control the ball as so fast with the, how do you say in English, the double
Step over.
Yeah, step over. The best step over I ever seen.
It's funny though, because if you recall when Cristiano Ronaldo arrived at Manchester United, everyone thought he was the one that kind of pioneered that, because he was obviously doing the step overs from day one when he came to Manchester United. And naturally, if you go into an English club or to, at that time, the biggest team in the world, you're going to get more exposure. But people forget that the Brazilian Ronaldo was one of the first to do that. I remember that early on.
Yeah, I was one of the first to do that, and then the control and the speed, the movement, the body movement was
the power of his
power.
shots.
Man, he was incredible. He could have done, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 step over at the same time, super fast. You didn't even have time to see on the TV. You had to see on the ralenti. It was incredible. Yeah, I believe everybody should go on YouTube and check all his goals, all his skills.
I'm sure most people have.
Yeah, because nowadays I'm still watching it. Probably I watched over 100 times. So going back to his career, of course I remember him very well on the World Cup and when he moved to Inter Milan, so Italian team. It's not my favorite team, as everybody knows. I believe is the enemy football team against Juventus. But man, I fell in love since he moved there in 1997. I don't know. I really felt football in a different way, different level that I was feeling before. Because Ronaldo for me was football. You know, he was the football, and he had something special on him. And also, I remember he had the first World Cup in '94 that he won, but he never played. And when he went, I guess he never played. I don't want to be
was it
wrong.
94? No, I don't know. I have from the 98, 2002, and 2006, but he was very young then.
Very young, so talented that he was called in the Seleção to participate to USA '94 that they won. But then when he was in Inter, and he also won the first Ballon d'Or there in I guess it was 97.
Yeah, so he won the Ballon d'Or 97.
97.
And then he went on again 2002.
Yeah, exactly. After the World Cup.
Yeah.
After the World Cup. And
so let's talk about his career trajectory from where now he moves to PSV Eindhoven in the Netherlands, right? Starts his career off there, age 18 at the time, because 3 years later he goes on to Inter Milan, where he starts to make a real name for himself. Okay, so
his prime, when he went to Inter Milan, was his prime, but also when all his problem started in Inter Milan. First time that he had the first injury was on 1998 against Lecce. And he missed several matches, but he had very good season anyway. But the 1998, he had his first real injury on his knee. He had he was out of the pitch for more than 6 months. I remember he was struggling. He was he went to Paris. It was one specialist doctor of the knee taking care about him. And I remember he went back to the field against Lazio. Was the Coppa Italia, the Italian Cup, the final of the Italian Cup. After 6 minutes, he went back to the field. His knee was broken.
Yeah, so
everybody was crying. I was crying.
The first injury was his ligament. Then he came back after 5 months, and then his ligament actually detached from his kneecap.
Yeah,
and
because
it's deemed the most serious injury ever, right?
Exactly, because he never reconstructed the ligament. You know, this doctor in France, he tried just to. They had to reconstruct from zero, but he tried just to reconstruct one part that he lost. Okay, and probably was
Mico the doctor.
I mean, I'm not the doctor, but I remember the interview of the doctor. He felt very responsible. You know, he said it was his mistake.
Okay,
I remember where Ronaldo had this injury, he went back. He went also to USA. I don't remember where, Boston probably. And this doctor in United States told him that he will never be able to go back to be a football player, professional player. And he went back to France to this doctor. I remember this doctor interview. He said, "You know what, Ronaldo? If you don't want me to take care of you, I understand you, because I was the one making a mistake on you." And Ronaldo said, "No, let's do it. Let's get a surgery right now," because he was also looking for the World Cup in 2002. He wanted to participate. His goal was to be on his best level, 80% minimum, to be able to go to the World Cup with the Seleção. So he had this surgery. He went back to the field after 1 year and a half, because the next season was a new coach on Inter Milan. On Inter, it was Hector Cooper. Hector Cooper, Argentinian one. He was very strict, and at that time was probably one of the best teammate attacker ever in the Italian league. Bobo Vieri, you remember Christian Vieri? Great player, one of the best striker, I believe. And Ronaldo was incredible couple, right? How can we say couple goals?
Partnership.
Yeah, partnership. And So Ronaldo, I remember Cooper when Ronaldo after the surgery, after the rehab, he was always on the bench. Cooper
Yeah.
never picked him on the pitch to let him play. So he was struggling, and I remember that the time the coach of Seleção was Felipe Scolari. You remember Felipe
Mm.
Scolari? He wasn't. He didn't know if Ronaldo was ready to go to the World Cup in 2002. The whole year was a really incredible year for all the fans, even Brazilian fans. Everybody was waiting for a Ronaldo phenomenon.
Yeah.
Until one day, Inter, um, he didn't win one easy match. At the match later, I don't remember which team, but I remember the match later. Cooper let Ronaldo and Vieri play together, and they scored both of them. So it was incredible. From that moment, Ronaldo started to play, but it was almost the end of the season.
Before up to the World
Really
Cup.
before the World Cup, like 4 months before the World Cup, and when Felipe Scolari had to give the names of the seleção, was a big battle between Ronaldo il Fenomeno and you know who? Romario.
Yeah, Romario.
You remember Romario? Another phenomenon. And then Felipe Scolari picked the last name. I remember on the press conference as Ronaldo il Fenomeno. So Ronaldo il Fenomeno was in. I remember I was excited because I was crying where Ronaldo had the injury. He couldn't play.
The one thing I do remember, especially leading up to that World Cup and during that World Cup 2002, I was very young. I was studying primary school, and I still remember the love and affection people had towards Brazil as a nation because of the beauty of football they had. It's not only because of Ronaldo; it's because of the host of players that they had as part of that group with Rivaldo, Roberto Carlos, then eventually Cafu, and then obviously all the big Brazilian players, and people just genuinely took a liking to that. And obviously that was the year in which Ronaldinho put himself on the world stage when he scored that free kick against David Seaman against England, right?
Yeah.
And from then on, in that season afterwards, he signed for Barcelona, where Man United was very close to signing him, but best decision of his life. Looking at that World Cup now, so let's look at some of his stats now. So he played in the 2002 World Cup. He played 7 games, and he got
he played 7 games, 8 goals.
8 goals, right? So that tournament's when he had the funny hairstyle. Remember, he had the shape. And,
I remember that one.
The R9 name and boots really came out at that time. I just remember in primary school watching this in classrooms. The teachers actually allowed us to watch it because it was during the day. And that's when I remember, that was my first real moments of Ronaldo. Obviously, I'm a bit younger than you, but I recall him in as at Inter Milan, but I recall...
Don't say everybody that I'm old, please.
No, he's actually 21 years old, everyone. But the 2002 World Cup will forever stick in my memory in the way it was Korea-Japan at that time, right? And obviously, Korea did relatively well. They went all the way up until the semi-finals. I'll never forget that. But now let's talk about that tournament. Obviously, a massive tournament. They won the tournament. Ronaldo scored 8 goals in 7 games. What do you remember from that experience?
First of all, the first thing that I remember, there was a kind of revenge for Ronaldo because in 1998, I don't know if you remember, Ronaldo arrived to the final against France.
Against France, yeah.
Was a France 98.
That's when Henry, Trezeguet, and all of them were there. Yeah.
Zidane scored 2 goals in the final.
I remember
game.
that.
You remember that? And do you remember what happened before the match?
No.
Ronaldo had a health problem. He didn't have to play. 2 hours before the match, he didn't have to play. Suddenly, he was in his room, hotel room with Roberto Carlos, and Ronaldo suddenly he was shaking. He was an epileptic crisis. He was shaking on the bed. They called the doctor. He went to the hospital. He was almost like dying. He had some really big issue. He couldn't play. All the Brazilian doctors, they said he couldn't play. But he wanted to play. So they went to the hospital in France. He did the whole checkup, and he was fine. So he decided to play for the final match, and he didn't play well. Probably all this situation, Ronaldo situation, affected the whole team because Brazil was very strong that year. Affected, so he lost the final against France, and Brazil did a really, really bad game. So for 2002 was a revenge of Ronaldo. Ronaldo was the best player, best striker of that World Cup. That's why he also won the Ballon d'Or. And yeah, I remember even some of his goals. I remember the 2 goals against the Turkey.
Okay, so now we're also going to look at his stats. We're going to focus on his stats now, right? So as a player, then I want you to take us through the teams he played for, because obviously he went on to Barcelona. Then he went down to Real Madrid later on in his career, then AC Milan, then ended up back home. So he actually, I'm just reading his stats here. So he ended his career with 66 awards, the Ballon d'Or, as you mentioned, in 97 and 2002. But this is when you start to see how good he was. And for the people that didn't really know who he was, especially the younger viewers. So he won 17 trophies, 2 World Cups, 2 Copa Americas, 2 Confederations Cup, a whole host of tournaments, international and for his domestic teams that he played for. But I want to read the stats here. So for his club career, he played 616 games, right? Not far behind Ronaldinho, actually, 640, which just goes to show by virtue of him starting so young, he was still able to achieve a very high amount of goals. Albeit Ronaldinho also ended his career with terrible injuries. So he scored 414 goals, 94 assists. So it's a 0.82 game and assist per average.
And most of his career, he was injured. You had to remember that. And when he went to
this,
Real Madrid
this
and
is,
Milan,
this is,
he was a very
he
was
put on
fat.
weight. Right? This is the point I'm trying to prove. So he faced his first serious injury, that career-threatening injury, very early on,
Very early.
2001, right? I mean, he was.
It was 98.
He was 21. He was 21 years old, right?
21 years old.
And then I remember by the time he got to 28, where you, in theory, supposed to start peaking in your career. You mentioned that he was peaking so early on, and he probably was, not only because of his injury, but just the influence that he had on the teams that he played for. But I think he's an incredible player, often overlooked when it comes to the conversation who's the best player ever. Obviously, for you, he is one of the best players ever, and I love that. I remember him. I remember how good he was. So for Brazil, he played 98 games, scored 62 goals and 17 assists. The next closest to him in games was Ronaldinho, but Ronaldinho got half the goals that he got, right? Anyone behind him, even Kaká, less than half. So he was definitely, and this is why when people were trying to compare Neymar to an individual like him,
no, you
cannot
compare.
You cannot.
For me, you can't compare Neymar to Ronaldo Phenomenon.
Okay, so before we end off, we are coming to the end. Let's talk about where you enjoyed him, watching him the most. Was it Barcelona or Real Madrid? Because it was very controversial for him to go. But obviously, very much younger at Barcelona. But tell me about the time that you were watching him there. And I remember some of the games that he scored big goals in, especially the Champions League. Yeah, I would love to hear.
I tell you, I like the most Barcelona, Inter Milan, but also Real Madrid. He was incredible. Of course, it wasn't his prime anymore because he was bigger. You know, he was fat, but he was still very strong and very fast. If you see him in Real Madrid, you couldn't believe it. Capello, that was the coach of Real Madrid the year, with the fat Ronaldo. He said he still was my best player I ever trained. Capello had the Van Basten, Gullit, Riker. He had incredible players. Guti.
They won the league that year when Capello.
They won the league.
Right?
They won the league. They won the league. They were the Galacticos. It was Beckham, Zinedine Zidane.
You know what I remember from him when he was at Real Madrid before Beckham went there. The season before David Beckham went there, they played Real Madrid in the Champions League, and Ronaldo scored 2 goals in 10 minutes, something stupid like that. Completely killed the game off, where the Manchester United fans were clapping him off the field. And from then on, I was like, this guy's a legend. In opposition fans are clapping for you based on the performance that you've done. It speaks volumes.
It's not first time that happened. It's very rare.
Yeah, it's rare. Yeah,
it's very rare. But also in Real Madrid Stadium, and this we're gonna talk another time. Del Piero had the standing ovation for Real Madrid fans. But we're gonna talk about Del Piero another.
Maybe we bring him on.
Yeah, I wish so.
Okay, so now ending off now with Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo. Let's do the top 5 players of all time. Where do you put him?
First for me.
And second?
Second, Maradona.
Then Messi, Ronaldo.
Messi, third Messi.
Would you put Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo in the top 5?
Yeah, I guess after probably Roberto Baggio or Del Piero. I'm very between probably Roberto Baggio then Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, I suppose Baggio is more famous for the penalty that he had missed. But yeah, I think that was actually a great one. So guys,
he was the last Italian that won the Ballon d'Or.
Who?
I know was after
no, it was Cannavaro in 2006.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, these kind of conversations are good. It's almost like the conversations you would have with your friends at school. Did you see Ronaldo play in the World Cup? I think the Ronaldo in which we spoke about today will forever go down in history, and also just being a genuine, nice person. I've heard.
He's a very genuine
David Beckham
person.
spoke very highly of him.
He's very humble. Ronaldo is very humble. I never seen any player like him. He's an icon, but he's super humble. And now he's still in the football industry. He's the president of Cruzeiro in Brazil. And he's also the president of Valladolid in Spain.
Yeah, no, he's still around. He's still around. Yeah, no, yeah. I think a lot of people. I found very few people that took it this liking.
I'm a big fan. I admire him. I'm a big fan.
But don't you feel like he's almost like a Messi or maybe not even a Messi, a Ronaldinho, where no one hated Ronaldinho, no one hated Ronaldo, right? Regardless if you were on the same team or the opposition team. But in saying that, guys, thank you for another episode of Just Football, Not Soccer. Mico's player that he absolutely loves, we covered today. We'll be doing this again next week with maybe a player that I actually like. I have a few in mind. And yeah, any closing remarks?
Just if you like these topics, follow us, give a like, and subscribe.
Give a like. Liao.
Leon here. Say hi to everybody.
The mascot. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
There you go. Good one. We're in better.
Yeah, bro. I'm very...